Let's log in. That's great. Okay. So, recap. What do we want to do? We want to give access to a GitHub action to G-Cloud project service account, the same that we have done with AWS by GCP. And we are going to be following this page of Cloud Hack Tricks. So we get this project. Well, actually, let me do this. Okay. Is it working? No. Cool. Project ID. And we want to use project ID. The first thing that we are going to do is create. Well, I'm still configuring, but the first thing that we are going to be doing is create a GCP service account. A GCP service account basically is a role in AWS. It's an account that probably you will give to an application to impersonate, to be able to do stuff in GCP. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I know what is going on. List. Email. What doesn't like this? And permission. Okay. Let's change project ID. Cool. Okay, so now we are creating the service account. Created. Oh, this is not be needed. Should be enabled. We are going to give in some kind of permissions to this service account. In this case, we are going to begin it security reviewer. In GCP, this policy binding is policy member, value prefix, type value. Oh, yeah. Probably need to do like this. Oh, capital A. Second. Cool. Let me fix this. Service account here. That's the good thing of having hashtags while I am explaining. I can fix the tutorial so you can later follow it. Cool. So we have created the service account. The role in GCP, we give it some kind of permissions. We are now going to creating the workload identity pool. This is the identity provider we previously created in AWS. Pool ID. Repository. And this is when things get interesting. So we want to make it vulnerable. We are going to create it vulnerable. Okay. So Now, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be creating an OpenID provider we have done previously in AWS with the same URL that we use in AWS. This way, we are going to tell in GCP, hey, you can trust this provider. For what? We will discover it later. But you can trust this provider. We get the provider ID. And now we are going, actually we don't need that. We are going to be telling GCP, hey, anyone, and let's look at this screen. Anyone from GitHub Actions, because we are trusting GitHub Actions, that fulfill these requirements, and I think this was the way here, that fulfills these requirements, and in this case, note how I put a wildcard here, is going to be able to assume the service account, this one. So anyone that comes from GCP, from GitHub Actions, fulfilling a wildcard, pretty easy to fulfill, is going to be able to access GitHub Actions. Why is this interesting? Obviously, because if you are looking for a foothold in a GCP project, in a GCP environment, this can be an authenticated way to get inside. But note that usually and by default, GCP is going to ask you to configure, instead of a wildcard, something like this, something that is asking you for a GitHub repo name, at least for a GitHub repo name. And what is a GitHub repo name? Something containing the organization and the repo name. So it's more complicated to configure this in GCP than AWS, because by default, GCP is not giving you that wildcard. You need to put it. But it's also possible that someone that doesn't know how to do this put this wildcard, or if also possible that at some point you compromise CI/CD using GitHub Actions, you see something like this GitHub Actions right here. You see this being used, and you now understand how the permissions are being given to these GitHub Actions inside GCP and how you can exploit them. And actually, that's what we are going to be doing right now. So if I get back to GitHub Actions, workflows, you can create a GitHub action like this one. We are going to be putting the IDs, provide the ID and side ID. So for the service accounts, we want to set the service account we configure right here. So we want to give access to GitHub Actions. This one here. Here, service account. And for the workload identity provider, we need to get the ID of the workload identity provider, which is what we have in this variable. If I get it. Cool. We call it like this, right? Huh. No, we use this one. Weeple, yeah, we use this one. So here we are authorizing GitHub Actions to access a service account inside GCP. This is what we are doing. We commit it. We come the actions. Check the action. Let's see if it works. Cool. So this is now running, and it should work. And GitHub gives us some kind of action inside GitHub. Oh, it didn't work. Why then? Oh, collaboration manager not enabled. We need to enable this service. and we are going to retry now. Cool. And now it worked successfully. Yeah. What did we do? Let's check again the code that we have just run here. What we have done is very easy. We have used GitHub Action in order to configure the credentials, and and indicated the workload identity provider and the service account we want to impersonate, and then we have executed gcloud auth list and gcloud project list just to check that it was working. Listed 0 items, we can list that, but we check that it was correctly authenticated, as we can see here. That's interesting because OIC footholds is something I haven't read about. They are probably you can probably find them in a lot of different places. Why? Because this is the new recommended way of Git access to CI/CD providers to AWS cloud through OpenID and through IDC providers, and not using secrets, not using credentials. This is the new. It's something our red teamers should know about. Again, the way to make this more secure is to ask GCP to check at least the GitHub repo name. Remember that in our case, we just set this wildcard here, this wildcard here, that allows, that is telling GCP, hey, just anything is, don't do any check or more, do a check, but I accept anything. The proper way to do this is to indicate the the mapping scope and then the repo you want to use. Cool. So this was a foothold in GCP using OIDC providers. Let's get back